Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi v'Datan v'Aviram b'nei Eliav ve'on ben Pelet b'nei Ruvain. So why am I singing this zach over here? Because this is it's my bar mitzvah parsha. So it's a throwback. This is the noob shtetl here. So this is all my life. I grew up with a certain appreciation for Korach because Korach is he's the guy who argues. So I very much relate to this guy. I found my connection to my bar mitzvah parsha in maybe the anti-hero of the story, the person who eventually gets swallowed, and we look at as not the right person to follow. But I very much connected with him. And when I was kind of looking at the Parsha again this week to try and prepare for the Shtickle Muse, I was trying to find a way maybe to adjust my understanding of Korach as a person and find a different way of connecting with the same Parsha. So the Parsha starts off, as I just, so beautifully laid. I could say it about myself. Yeah. We'll talk offline. No. I can do the first pasuk. Now you know. But what's interesting about this first pasuk is that it brings down a collection of people. And when I was first looking at it, I said, well, okay, it brings down Korach. He's the person. We named the parsha after the bad guy, arguably. Maybe the right word for the parsha would actually be vayikach, to take. Because what they did, this whole group of people, is they made themselves separate from everybody else in the Eidah, or from Moshe, and in a way they were poresh themselves. And I guess you have to ask yourself, what is the real problem with the argument of Korach? He says later, Kulanu Kedoshim, everybody is everybody's holy, Kulam Kedoshim. And it's maybe in a way it's the right answer. It is. But if you look at a second glance, what's wrong with the argument of Korach? The argument was the way that what he was trying to do. And you can see that from the outset based on who his collaborators are. Korach is one person who brings down this nice argument. It's a populist argument. Everybody is equal. Why should anybody else be better? Again, maybe something that I relate to. When you think about this, why not me? Why shouldn't I be a leader? Why shouldn't I be this person or that person? Why shouldn't I be zochet to whatever kind of honor I should get? But you see, I'm not going to deserve. Maybe that's the point. We're not deserved of this. You see this based on who he surrounds himself with. He surrounds himself with Datan and Aviram, and their argument is not the same as his. Their argument is, Moshe, you failed. You took us into the desert. You brought us away from a land of milk and honey to die in the desert instead. Who else does he surround himself with? On ben Pelet, b'nei Ruvain. Ruvain was the original firstborn of the situation. So you have here an argument from one person who says, I deserve to be the leader because I'm the firstborn. We have another argument from a person here who says, oh, you failed. We have another argument from a person here who says, I'm a Levite. Why should you choose your brother instead of me? And they bring down also that the 250 people here that were also fighting against Moshe and Aaron were also firstborns who would have had the right to kahuna in their own right, and they were upset about the fact that they didn't get that honor anymore. So you see here the collection of people here is fighting against something, but they don't have a common purpose. They are vayikach. They're all being taken away from whatever else they started with. And this is where we're going to try and connect this a couple of times to Pirkei Avos throughout this. It says, Kol machlokas hi l'shem shamayim, sofa likayem, and then it talks about a machlokas, it's a good one, and it says what's a machlokas, it's a bad one. It says, Zuma machlokas shel Korach v'chol adato. It doesn't say machloket Korach v'Moshe. It doesn't say who the two sides of the fighting are. It talks about the fact that they are a group of people who are perhaps aligned in their anti, but they're not aligned in their outcome. They're not aligned in the purpose that they're trying to arrive at. And that's what happens with this group. They sin through this thing, and ironically, there's another connection here to Pirkei Avos. Also talks about the things that were created in Bein Hashmashos, not Bein Hashmashos, Erev Shabbos, and the first thing is Pi Haaretz, the mouth of the earth that swallows them up. So it seems like there's some clear connection here with Pirkei Avos, and we'll try and come back to it a little bit more to understand maybe how this all relates back. So what else happens in this week's Parsha? After Korach and his group sin, we have this interesting story with Ketoret. Ketoret first becomes the way that Moshe gives the people a chance to serve God, maybe appropriately, and it's almost like a competition. Come, all of you, do your Ketoret, and you'll do it against, and next to Aaron, we'll see who gets accepted. And the story goes that the 250 people end up getting burnt up by fire, the same way that Nadav and Avihu end up being burnt up. And maybe one of the interesting things about this is that a few moments later, we have a story about a plague. So the nation comes and they say, "Oh God, we can't even come close to you anymore. We're all dying here," and Hashem says that he's gonna kill them for this behavior again. And Aaron steps in between Bein Hachaim and Bein Hametim, and you shall not pass. This is where he kind of does a Ketoret again, and it becomes a Ketoret of curing. And I think what's interesting about Ketoret is you read at the end of davening the story of Pitum Ketoret. You have to say each word, make sure you don't forget any one part of it, and it's a combination of I think it says 11 different kinds of things that are brought together that on their own right, they don't necessarily smell so good. But when they're brought together, they're able to do this kind of holy work. And I think one of the learnings about this is, when you have all these different parts that maybe in their own right are not, as perfect as they are, when they come together, this is perhaps the answer to Korach, is that we have our own roles. Everyone has their own place in the world, their own place to find their tafkid. When we come together, that's really where we get to elevate ourselves l'shem shamayim. And the other thing about the Ketoret that's also interesting, I think this is something that people often, it's a challenge for us, is the same thing that was doing the killing ends up being the curing. If you think about this in life, we sometimes find our strengths. We find this is where I should put my effort. That's that tafkid, the part of the Ketoret that you want to be. This is where I should invest. The challenge becomes the other side of it. When we latch on to something that we think is our strength and we spread it peanut butter on everything that we do. A strength can become a weakness. If you find that as your comfort zone, then that's where you face a little bit of a challenge. And I think if we connect this perhaps to the end of the parsha, it talks a little bit about the role of the Kohen, the role of the Levite, the role of Meiser. We sort of set up this place where everyone can kind of find their own way in the world. I was thinking about this. We talk about at the beginning about the argument of Korach. Why was it such a perfectly timed argument now? Because last week's parsha, they found out that they're going to be stuck in the desert for 40 years. So all of a sudden, they lose all morale. He jumps in there. It's perfectly timed. People are concerned. Oh, maybe Moshe is a bad leader. So I was trying to connect back to the idea of this 40 that's something that's coming up, and also my bar mitzvah parsha yesterday. Kabbalah is something that I've been trying to find for a long time now. So I've been asking people, what's the gateway book for Kabbalah? What's the gateway, whatever. We won't. I don't have all the answers. I've been given a lot of different kinds of guidance. But one of the things that it says in Pirkei Avos that stood out to me is what happens when you're 40. So I won't go through the whole Mishnah here. If you want to look at it, it's Mishnah Chaf Aleph in Perek Hey. But it says, Ben Arba'im Lebina. Bina is something that you get when you're 40, and that's what allows you to do Kabbalah perhaps in a different way and expose yourself to this new kind of life. Maybe it's grow into something different. So I was thinking about what does it mean to have Bina? And the first place in my morning, at least, I don't know what everyone else's morning is like, but that I learn about Bina is La Sechvi. The Sechvi has Bina to understand Bein Or Lachosh Beyom, blanking now, help me? Yom V'Laila, thank you. The Sechvi has this Bina, and we're talking about a rooster here. But the rooster has some special power that's been given to it. So Mefarshim bring down what is really that the rooster is able to understand. It's the Bain. It's that point of transition. It's this idea of change that's happening in that time. It's not clearly day. It's not clearly night. We're seeing now it's time to crow because things are changing. That's the time to really raise your voice and make that call come to life. I think maybe that connects back in a way also to one thing in this week's parsha that's very interesting is the staff of Aaron. There was this one little story we have. Maybe kids come back from school, they have the staff that they've decorated, and what was amazing about it was that it had all the different states of fruit on it at the same time. It had a bud, it had a flower, it had a fruit. So it had all these different stages of growth that normally you wouldn't see on a flower on a staff growing at the same time at all. And I think that's maybe is the idea of being able to accept, to find Kabbalah in that point, is to be able to identify and feel all these different truths at the same time, which really allows us maybe in a way to shift from being a vayikach, a taker, to being mekabel, and to being able to shift into a state of Kabbalah as you grow into the next phase of life. So, Azoi.